Well, hello and welcome. This is Misheard from Misheard Song Lyrics Podcast, doing Season 3, Episode 156, first ever Air Supply Misheard Song Lyric. It's from their song Making Love Out of Nothing at All. The Misheard Song Lyric is, you can take the darkness from the pit of the night and turn it to a bacon burning endlessly right. And then the correct lyrics is, you can take the darkness from the pit of the night and turn it to a beacon burning endlessly bright. Well, let me tell you, this week's Misheard Song Lyric is a perfect trifecta for me. We have the misheard lyric of bacon. You all know that I love bacon, especially those that know me. I've dressed as bacon before. I ran in a half marathon dressed as bacon. There's a power ballad. I love me a power ballad. We'll talk about what those are if you don't know, of the 80s, and Air Supply, so you can understand my excitement. So why did I do an Air Supply misheard song lyric? Well, recently drove to the Oregon coast. For those of you outside of the United States, Oregon is where I live, and we call our beach the coast because it's usually cold. But now with things getting hotter, it's almost feeling like it's a regular beach. So I went there with my hubby and a friend that's turning 75 next week, and I started seeing billboards on our way of one of my favorite guilty pleasures of a band called Air Supply. I saw them in concert at that same venue 5 years ago, and they sounded like they did when I was really young. And I used to listen to them on the radio. I even had their cassette tape. The cassette tape had an air balloon on it. That's how I remember it. That says a lot nowadays, because with many famous singers, unfortunately, some are losing their beloved voices, like Linda Ronstadt. I think I read Huey Lewis. And so to have his hard, it's a really high tenor, I guess, voice, and to still sound like that 30, 40 years later, that's amazing. So you have to always, we have to remind ourselves that the voice is a strong muscle, and like anything, it can be lost in time, or you can hurt it. So it was amazing to hear them and see them in person. This is not the case with Air Supply. They sounded amazing. And when I heard this song, Making Love Out of Nothing at All, it just transformed me back to the local skating rink here in Beaverton, Oregon, and thinking of my then whatever school crush. I'm like, oh, will he notice me? Does he know I like him? Will we be married someday? Oh gosh, life was simple back then, right? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the song first, Making Love Out of Nothing at All. It is a power ballad, which my friend Roscoe knows I love to sing, a power ballad. It was written and composed by Jim Steinman and first released by Australian soft rock band Air Supply. Yes, they're from Australia. I had an idea about that, but for some reason I thought they were English. And it was for their 1983 compilation album, Greatest Hits. It reached #2 in the US Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks, behind Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler, which was also a Jim Steinman song that he wrote. So it was interesting that it's, didn't hit #1 because of another Jim Steinman song. And interestingly enough, this song has been covered by, of course, many other artists, including Bonnie Tyler. That's the irony. Let's talk about power ballads. What are they? So when I went on the internet, I could find certain things about it, but the main thing about the power ballad is it's what most people call a hard rock song that expresses love or heartache through its lyrics. And then it goes into what they say, it shifts into a wordless intensity and emotional transcendence with heavy drumming, a distorted electric guitar solo representing the power in the power ballad. That's why it's so awesome. And a gentleman by the name of Charles Aaron says that the hard rock power ballad broke into the mainstream of American consciousness in 1976 as FM radio gave a new lease of life to earlier love songs such as Bad Fingers Without You or Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, and then Aerosmith's Dream On, which I did a funny misheard song there, I think, many weeks ago. And interestingly, the Carpenters' Goodbye to Love. Remember that song? Goodbye to love. Didn't know that. But yeah, then I remember it does go into that, what they say goes into the emotional transcendence, heavy drumming, and then distorted electric guitar. So, okay, makes sense. And they have said that the Carpenters' Goodbye to Love has also been sung as a prototype of the power ballad, which I did not know that. And it was driven by the hard rock guitar sound of Tony Peluso. So there you go, Tony Peluso, wherever you at. But the power ballad really hit his main stride with American rock band Styx. And they have been credited with releasing the first true power ballad with the song Lady. I would agree that. in 1973. Its writer, Dennis DeYoung, is also called the father of power ballads. I would also agree with that. And then in the 1980s, you saw a lot of it coming with Journey, obviously, and then REO Speedwagon. And they say that the power ballad became a staple of hard rock performers who wanted to gain more radio play and satisfy their female audience's members with a slower, more emotional love song. So tactically, strategically, very smart to have at least one power ballad. And then also every hard rock and glam metal band wrote at least one power ballad for each album, and record labels often released these as the album's second single. So there was a not only a need for it with us that love power ballads, but it was also a very smart marketing ploy. Okay, let's go back to Air Supply. They're an Australian soft rock duo. It does consist of an English-born singer, songwriter, guitarist Graham Russell, and then Australian lead vocalist, the main singer, Russell Hitchcock. So this is where it's confusing because there's two Russells. One's the last name and one's his first name. They actually originally met back in the early 70s, and they, it says here, May 12th in the 70s, they performed together at an Australian production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's and Tim Rice's musical Jesus Christ Superstar. Thanks to Jesus Christ Superstar, this band came together. Thank you again, Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. This is how it works. So what happened is they met, sparks flew, everything is starting to lock into place, and it shows that they had a succession of hits worldwide, I would agree, including 8 top 10 hits in the US in the early 1980s. And like I said earlier, they actually met in 1975, so I wanted to get the actual year. So May 12th, 1975. And since then, they've had many different musicians work with them and singers. And the Australian Recording Industry Association, or ARIA, I like that, inducted Air Supply into their Hall of Fame back on December 1st, 2013 at their annual ARIA Awards. All right, so did you know another thing? So for those of you who are too young, there was a wonderful show from the 80s called Solid Gold. I loved it because it was usually around 7:30, right before Love Boat and all the other fun shows on ABC that I would, watch with not only either relatives or friends, but it had all the top hits at that time. And it was almost like a TRL before TRL was, and they would have these beautiful Solid Gold dancers perform little dances in the vignettes of what the top 10 hits were. Well, my favorite, Andy Gibb, was a host there, but that was also the time when he was having his issues with drugs. So both Russell and Hitchcock, the two folks I just talked to you about that started Air Supply, would be what they called relief hosts on the music program if Andy Gibb, would not show up for like some reason. And at this point, it became frequent because, of his, unfortunately, drug use. So they ended up terminating him. But even though this was not their usual job, both the duo became, regular stand-ins. They impressed the producers and the audience who enjoyed their accents. And so they're often able to host every now and then until the show was canceled. But I remember that. I remember it was Andy Gibb, Marilyn McCoo, a couple other folks, and then it ended up being both the guys from Air Supply from time to time. So that's why. All right, so let's talk more about the song again. The song is actually a reworking of a main title theme from a 1980s film, A Small Circle of Friends, for which, Jim Steinman wrote the score. So that's kind of how it started. It was, of course, we know it was first recorded by Air Supply, giving them their number 2 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 in the U.S. for 3 weeks. Like I said earlier, it was held off by another Jim Steinman song, Total Eclipse of the Heart. And remember, I talked about Jim Steinman way back on season 2, episode 84, It's a Hard Egg, or It's a Hard Egg, Bonnie Tyler. And that's where I mentioned him and the song there. So he's coming back around, this Mr. Jim Steinman. The song, again, I shared earlier, was actually released as a new track for their 1983 Greatest Hits album. And then here's a big did you know. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So Steinman actually, helped write the song along with Total Eclipse of the Heart. And he actually shared it to Meatloaf and said, hey, would you want to use these songs for your Midnight at the Lost and Found album? However, Meatloaf's record company at the time refused to pay Mr. Jim Steinman for the material, so Meatloaf ended up writing his own compositions for the album himself. Interesting. If Meatloaf would have sang these songs, would they have done just as good or better? We don't know. Well, he then went and offered to Bonnie Tyler and Air Supply, hey, I got some great songs for you. However, in an interview with journalist Mick Wall shortly after the release of Meatloaf's 2006 album Bat Out of Hell 3, The Monster is Loose, Steinman said, quote unquote, "I didn't write Total Eclipse of the Heart for anyone but Bonnie, but Steinman believed that CBS was expecting him to write something similar to It's a Heartache, but he had different ideas." Okay, so rest is history. Bonnie Tyler does Total Eclipse of the Heart. We all know it. It's sung many times at karaoke, and one of my favorite bands, Air Supply, ends up singing Making Love Out of Nothing. All is happy, right? So by 1983, Air Supply had changed much of its classical musician lineup, both in the recording studio and on tour. And Steinman, also, known for the power ballads, he wanted to use Bruce Springsteen's E Street band members, Roy Bittan on keyboards and Max Weinberg on drums, to musically underscore the recording with his sounds, which he did. They also say Rick Derringer, who was previously the guitarist for the McCoys, and Johnny Winter provided the electric guitar solo that made the sound of Making Love Out of Nothing at All stand so drastically apart from most other Air Supply songs. In an interview, both Hitchcock and Russell confirmed Hitchcock did the vocals in one take. That's amazing. When Steinman asked, "What do we do next?" Russell replied, "We go home." I love it. One take, we're good. All right, have you seen the music video? This is where I got confused. So when you look up Making Love Out of Nothing at All music video, the first thing that comes up is, it almost looks like a mini movie. It shows, like, I've been told here, in 1960s New York City, you see a Marine, a woman is walking precariously with some bags of groceries, drops it, and then you see kind of the progression of, he flirts with her, in the next scene, he's talking to her, they go on a date, she plays hard to get. Intermixed in all this timeline is Air Supply performing in their infinite glory from the 80s. So we're like 1960s, 80s. And then you see, it gets pretty deep. Like, then you see the couple get married, they have kids. I think, starts cheating on her, unfortunately, when she goes to the garage where he's a mechanic. He's flirting with another gal, and she's bringing his lunch, she's pregnant. And then at the end, I think they reconcile. So that's the official version. But there's actually another version of the music video. So if you look up Making Love Out of Nothing at All, but you look it up with the title Original, you will see the other one. And this one also has a storyline, but different storyline. And I'll set it up in a second, but it also still has Air Supply intermix in between parts of it. But this time, it's played by guitarist Graham Russell himself. He plays the man in this. And his then, or still wife now, real life second wife, Jodie Russell, who's an actress, is in it. And in this video, it's cheeseballs to the 10th degree, but it's amazing. Or I like to say amazeballs. And it's pretty much Russell saying, Graham Russell's, playing a part, I guess, is Graham Russell. And he's about to get on their Learjet, and his girlfriend says, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, I'm going to go on tour. I'll come back. And then the song plays, and it shows him cheating on her. He's in bed with another gal. And what I love is, because it must have been big at the time when this video was made, all the probably was cool back then. Like, you'd look at a picture and it would come to life and have its own video within a video. And then at the end, she meets him at the airport, or actually no, she surprises him at his gig at some concert. And he mouths, "I love you." And then this amazing light, looks like it's about to bring him into some spaceship, showers them as they kiss and all that. So totally different feel, look, but there are 2 videos out there if you haven't seen it already. And the interesting thing is, his wife, Jodie Russell, in the video looks, I had to do a double take. She's a dead ringer for the infamous Miss Amber Heard of Johnny Depp infamy. So watch it if you can see it. I'm also going to add the links to our podcast so you can click on it and check it out for yourself. But it's amazing. And like I said, they're coming to town in October here. Kind of tempted to see them again. They're amazing. But if you have any great suggestions like this, come on. We thought it was bacon burning endlessly, right? Hey, that's the kind of stuff I like to talk about with Misheard Song Lyrics. You can send us to any of our social media sites, or you can just, old school email it to me at misheard, that's MISSHEARD songs@gmail.com. And I'd love to give you a shout out like I did the last couple weeks of some folks that sent me some really good Misheard Song Lyrics. Till then, keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.